Hey everybody, good morning. Today I'm joined by my friend Mason Whitaker, who is the founder and managing director of Volt Technologies. So he has led hundreds of ERP and all those implementations for manufacturing, distribution, professional services. We actually worked on a project a couple of years ago in the retail space. So I'm really excited to have you on today and just talking about all things technology for small business. So thank you for being here.
Of course. Thanks, Christy, for having me.
Yeah. So if you could just dig in and kind of tell everybody what's your background and the story along with how Volt Technologies got started.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's an exciting story. My background is heavily on the technical side. So I am a recovering software developer, I like to say, but been, writing software and really just programming in all my free time. And it's the biggest hobby of mine ever since I was about 16 years old. So started my first company as a web design company. And back when you had to manually write all the HTML and CSS and JavaScript, and everything was much harder back then, but it was a lot of fun. And so got obsessed from that and started a variety of businesses, but really found my way when I stumbled into the Microsoft channel as a technical architect, building out integrations and customizing ERP systems, specifically Microsoft Dynamics AX, and then turned into Dynamics 365 finance and supply chain. But in that, life of being a technical architect, I was doing a lot of big data migration for large customers in the enterprise space. So very, very large customers. And I made my way into project and program management, and being a program manager over one of my customers was a $100 billion organization. And they had 172 legal entities and very large scale operations, distribution and manufacturing and retail and kind of all of the things, service, if you will, and saw very, very large scale rollouts of ERP systems. And we, got to the point when we were running these very large customers, we saw that there was kind of a templatized manner that we could take with the implementations and do them much faster. So we started going live, with 172 companies. We were doing like 5 to 6 go lives a weekend, and we would do it within like the span of like a month. We would go very fast with these implementations, and because of the templatized nature that we had kind of built around it. And I was thinking with our team, like if we could do this with these very large customers and go live very quickly, like why can't we do this for the small and mid-sized space?
Mm-hmm.
Back in my early days of first starting that web design company and the kind of other companies in that time period, it was always in small business, and I was always a startup person and small and mid-sized companies. That's why I love our parent company, Sunrise Technologies, being a mid-sized company. And I just like asked that question of why can't we do this? And ultimately it was the product. So finance and supply chain, which is Dynamics 365's tier 1 ERP offering, is built for those large scale companies. It's that SAP Compete, it's those larger businesses. And it wasn't made for the mom and pop and the small and mid-sized space. And so I saw an opportunity at that exact time that I was having these sorts of questions of why can't we do this for SMB. Microsoft was releasing Dynamics 365 Business Central to the market, which was the culmination of Great Plains and Solomon or SL and Navision or Nav, so all their legacy Dynamics products that were more tailored towards different specific markets within SMB, like project management for SL or inventory for Nav or financials with GP. They brought all those together with BC and made a cohesive small and mid-sized business management offering. And so when I saw that, just went full force into it and said, let's do this. Teamed up with the CEO at Sunrise Technologies to create Volt Technologies as a subsidiary. So this way we have all the backing coming from Sunrise and all the history with Microsoft of the number one Microsoft partner in the market, but now offering Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. So ever since the product was kind of released to the market, we went full force into it and been servicing customers with SMB and not just ERP, but all of the surrounding peripheral technologies too. So like customer relationship management or just the M365 stack. And of course, AI. We're doing so much AI implementation right now and just preparing organizations for what's coming with agents. So that's a little bit of the background, an exciting story kind of
It
getting
is.
to this point. And again, I know I told you in the beginning, apologize for the background here, actually in a good old Holiday Inn Express with a customer on site, just taking a quick break away, and I'll be back at the office. So
Yeah, no, it's great. And I really like what you started the company on. And I think that's what was fun when we worked on that project a couple of years ago, is just bringing in this a different look at things from a technology perspective of, hey, we can build things, we can do things in a different way that isn't how it was always done. And I think that's what's exciting. And I'm starting to see that even in the accounting side of technology, as things were always done a certain way. And now there's starting to be some front runners in there saying like, hey, what if we did it this way? What would happen? And
yep.
it's kind of paving the way for that change. So I think that's been really awesome to just see. But I know you come across a lot of companies, they're running on QuickBooks, Excel, old versions like the NAV systems, and they need to start graduating to what does next look like. So what are some of the things that you see when people are coming to you of, hey, you know what, this is kind of the first signal we need to move off of these older platforms and evaluate, hey, is Business Central going to be the right fit for you? Are there certain components of it that we need to start with first and not go the full blown out system?
Yeah. Yeah. The big things that I always look for, or that at least people are just coming and saying, hey, I have this pain, are normally around expansion in their complexity as an organization or expansion in their need for capability within the system. Normally, QuickBooks is really great for just financials for a smaller business, and it's got some really slick integrations. And if you're not really that deep in managing, let's say like inventory or maybe like a bunch of service or field service workers, you could stay on QuickBooks for a decent amount of time, getting up to like 30 or 50 employees or somewhere in that range, and still be pretty happy. But the biggest thing is when people start to say, hey, we have inventory that we're not able to track. Like QuickBooks has not a robust inventory system, at least that's integrated in with the financials. Or same thing on the service side. Hey, we have a lot more field service workers, and like we're just doing everything on paper. And they're starting to see that need for bringing the data together, where they may have just had it be kind of off siloed in an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. And they're wanting something more holistic. So normally that's the biggest driver for a small business. They're kind of growing up more. They're starting to see that they've got more inventory capabilities that they need, and they're wanting to have that actually in a holistic system. And the biggest thing is like one of the very common things that inventory operations run into is looking at like cost of goods sold.
Yes.
So being able to, actually track like what is the cost of what I just gave to a customer. So you can obviously see what the sales price is for a given inventory good, because you could just, hey, what's the dollar amount that I'm getting for this item? And it's like, that's even with QuickBooks, you're going to get that stuff. But looking at actually the cost that went into like making that good or procuring that good, there's a lot of factors to it, from indirect cost, from direct cost, the actual like transportation or the the labor involved, the freight, duties if you're doing international procurement. And so you want to be able to see, when I sell to a customer, hey, what was the amount of cost that came from, let's say, maybe the duties that I'm paying to to procure it. And you can't get that level of visibility because your systems are not tied together from inventory to your financials. And so when you level up into an ERP, an actual full-on ERP system rather than just an accounting system, you're able to see that traceability from the inventory module, into your financials, where I make a sale. Now I can drill into that sale and see all of the audit of the transactions of all the cost application against those goods. And so you're able to see the breakout of freight, duties, tariffs, labor, all of these different costs. And so when people start to see, hey, I need that capability, or I need something like that to make better decisions with my business, that's normally when they're starting to reach out and say, hey, I'm looking to level up.
Yeah. Now I see that a lot. And even with clients in more of that startup phase too, and they have inventory and they're like, hey, you know what, I can't track what my true costs are. And even
Yep.
on the flip side of it, if they're distribution only, they're still getting product in, and
Yep.
there's landed costs, there's duties, there's all these things that
Exactly.
go into it that QuickBooks is like, hey, congratulations, here's one
Yep.
price, and that's
Yep.
how it's going to
You
be.
found the gap. Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly. And so there's a lot of manual, using your Excel spreadsheets and things like that. But I know a lot of founders that I'm talking to and business owners or whatnot, they a lot of times feel that we're too small to graduate off of, and it kind of goes in line with that of, hey, well, if inventory is a big thing and the current system isn't meeting your needs today, then no, you're not too small to graduate because the pain is there. Or
Yep.
I know different reporting types, and especially with supply chain and how AI is involved in that now, being able to help with forecasting and things that, QuickBooks can't do, or maybe they don't have the team to manage this in Excel. So I hear that a lot, and just some of those risks that you get as pushbacks, and it's all
Yep.
normal things. And I know you hear that as well. And how are you navigating these, owners coming in and like, oh gosh, it is a lot of money. It's a big investment. We're afraid of these risks. Then what if we wait too long?
Yeah, one of my main goals when working with customers and our partners is just to make ERP not as big, hairy, and scary as it needs to be, and trying to phase and do things in a way that's going to cause kind of that least impact to the business, from just a like change management standpoint, but largest impact from a financial and just capability standpoint. And so normally we're looking at things as like almost a composable ERP, where maybe if you're running on QuickBooks today and you're using as accounting system and you want those inventory capabilities, you don't have to do everything in this big bang implementation. You can come in and just do the financials at first and just essentially just move into the platform, and then start to slowly add things on as a phase 2 or a phase 3, phase X. And be able to kind of naturally progress. Whereas right now you're at a ceiling point with QuickBooks or some of these other accounting systems, but getting into a system like Dynamics 365, specifically Business Central for SMB, it allows you to open up that ceiling and say, all right, well, we can move over, have all the capabilities that we have today, but now as we want new things, we can add those in just over time, and there's no big gap in front of you. So I always like to say that it's better to phase if you have that opportunity rather than to say, all right, I want, AI and IoT and all of the full supply chain and everything automated planning and all these things. We have to do it up front. That's just not really the best way to do it, because honestly, you're going to, especially if you're not doing it in a system today, you're probably going to change those processes as you get, a year down the line or 2 years down the line, as your business kind of adapts and changes and scales. So definitely phasing is a big way. I like to coach customers on going through the implementation, so that way they're not biting off more than they can chew at first. It makes it an easier investment on the upfront too. And if you have that opportunity, where you're only running on a financial system today and everything is, Excel or things like that, you can leave that stuff there for like a phase 2 and make it a little bit more consumable for you to make that move.
Yeah, and I think what I've seen too is sometimes people want to go all in, and essentially you're buying the Ferrari today, and you're like, no, you don't need it. The Ford truck is sufficient.
You're riding a bicycle right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And too, with the smaller businesses, there's a lot of process, there's a lot of adaptation to new way of doing things, and I've seen that change management comes in whether you're ready for it or not. There's still always going to be some type of pushback on it, and I've seen phases be more successful because people can be like, okay, this wasn't so bad, it isn't so scary or whatever. Moving into this, we have a good idea of how it works. All right, we're ready for phase 2.
Yeah, and it's what we do differently, I believe, than other partners is that we don't look at the digital transformation like as just a project. We look at it as like a journey, and we will come in, and it's actually exactly what I'm doing on site, with a customer right now, and envisioning that future with them. Like we call it future state engineering, or getting to that dream state. And looking at all those things of, hey, you do want IoT maybe in your warehouse, or automated conveyors, or AI agents performing your procurement, or things like that. And those are definitely on the vision, and it's where we want to go. And so how do we get there? How do we get the data right, the process right, and how do we get the systems right to enable you to take advantage of those technologies? Because actually, once you have all of those things right, taking advantage of those is much easier to implement that than getting the foundation right. So we always look at it as, a journey over time, and not to try to do all of that at first. Like if you have in your phase one, you have AI agents on there and you're running on, QuickBooks, it's not looking good. You want to be making sure that that is going to be something that comes after the fact, that you get all the data right, you get the process right in the business, and then you get that core foundation. And those other things are much easier. I mean, the AI projects that we're doing today with a lot of our existing customers that are already running on Dynamics are very quick time to value. I mean, we're spinning up agents within a week, 2 weeks, and they're instantly providing value. And so it's because they have that core foundation right. And that's just a step that SMB customers are not seeing. They're seeing all of the AI excitement, and it really is exciting, and what all agents can do. But you can't just jump right there. Like there's a lot of foundation layer that has to go in first.
And I think that's the thing, is like all AI and automation, they're the buzzwords right now, but what's actually relevant for the small business versus, what's being talked about. And I was at a conference last month down in Atlanta, and they were kind of talking about that, of like, hey, it's the buzzword, it's the shiny objects, everybody's chasing it, but what do you actually want it to produce for you? And then, like you guys stress, I stress, everybody else does, if your data isn't clean, it's not going to help you do anything.
Yeah.
And so what are you seeing right now with what's relevant in the AI space and the automation when it comes to the small businesses and even the mid-size too?
Yeah, with small and mid-size, I mean, getting the process actually defined and understood is the easiest way to start having AI agents take advantage and like leverage those for your business. Because if you have let's say just like, performing procurement, if you have a million different ways that you're performing procurement, then it's going to be very hard for an AI agent to do every single one of those things. So it's just like automation. If you narrow down that lane of how many different steps could be taken, it's much easier for you to take an agent and turn something, which an agent is probabilistic, into being actually deterministic by putting it on a specific lane. It performs way, way better. So having your processes like narrowly defined, actual standard operating procedures written out for how to execute something, because once you have an SOP in a PDF, you can just give that to an agent and it will consume the SOP and actually understand what it needs to do.
Yeah.
So it's very hard. I've said this many times, to just say, do my job. And it's like, well, I have no idea what your job is. And if you can define that job, and you can define at a very granular level the things that need to take place, not such a granular level of like where you have to write conditional statements of like, if this happens, then do this, but just a level enough where you have general understanding of what needs to happen within your systems or with your customers and your vendors and your items, then you can actually get a lot done with AI agents. So focusing on process for SMB, I think, is the number one thing up front, because that's outside of even the data side of things. It's just truly the process, and then moving and starting to look at the people side of it. So looking at, hey, how are my teams organized, and are we in a way where these processes are efficient for our people? And looking at all of that first before you even get to the true technology. So I view transformation as a process first, and then you look at the people, and then you look at the technology. I always like to say that the projects that we do are people projects. And we come in, and normally companies have processes that are at least somewhat defined, and then we help kind of organize the people around it, and then the technology kind of as that last piece there. But yeah, that's kind of the natural progression.
Yeah, no, and I think that's true. So I think a lot of times people want to lead with the technology and forget the other components of it. And it's like, no, you got to have this foundation built, and then the technology is going to come in as that added tool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's why I always like, I think that ERP projects need to be led by the business itself as opposed to, whether it's like your IT department or your like IT vendor. I think that the business actually has the understanding of the process, they know the requirements, and then they know the people that are included in there and the groups and how all that works. That is like so important. And the technology, I mean, ERPs, like 95% of them do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like they're really, I mean, a customer is a customer, sales order is a sales order. What really matters is the process and the people that are kind of making that up. And then, of course, I think that really the big differentiator is the partner that you work with the technology, who's going to mold that technology for your business.
Yeah, that's huge. And it's coming in to say too, like which partner makes sense long term. Like, do we
Yep.
have the same vision? Are we all going on the same page? Because if you don't, that causes a lot of friction. Implementations don't work well. It's
Yep.
just not a good long term relationship.
Yeah, and I think AI is causing a big change in the partner selection, just partner
Mhm.
ecosystem, in that, let's say 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and I mean, really cloud did a lot of this too, but the partner selection is not just, hey, who can write the best code, like who is going to be the best person that if I give them a specification of how something should work, that they're going to program it the best.
Mhm.
Because that actually, I mean, our development is 10 times as fast now with using AI agents and being able to speed through this. So what really matters now is the understanding of the business. So does that partner understand your industry? Do they get, the weird quirks that make your industry specific? And then do they understand your vision for the future? A lot of people, like developers, they know the code extremely well, but do they understand business really well? Do they know where you as a leader within the organization are trying to take the business? Those are the key components with partner selection, whereas a lot of it used to just be, I have the vision, I just
Mhm.
need a development partner who's basically going to just code the thing for me.
Yep.
And that's not really the same measurement tool as it used to be.
Yeah, it's shifted a little bit.
Yeah.
How are you seeing Copilot coming in and standing out within the solution versus people relying a lot on ChatGPT because it's a separate software, but Microsoft has built Copilot. It lives inside Business Central as well as your other software.
Yep.
How have you seen it really being helpful? Outside of kind of answering people's questions and then also in the technology.
Yeah, Copilot Studio is making a lot of exciting waves within just how we do implementation and especially those phase 2 projects.
Mhm.
That's what we're working on right now with so many of our customers is doing Copilot Studio agents to perform specific tasks. So that's really the thing I'm most excited about is Copilot Studio. And what we're seeing with it is that you have that power of like really any model now with an LLM, and Copilot Studio allows you to select which model that you want, even one that you fine tune yourself. And then you can apply that to your business data and not just a way in getting inquiries done, like how can I, or what's my available inventory for this item or something, which that's all fun and
Mhm.
neat and everything. But that, the real power is then, okay, I have this available inventory. Now create this sales order for this customer and this specific ship date, and it can go and perform those tasks for you now. And that's where we're seeing Copilot Studio really take off, is finding these specific tasks that you've narrowed down that process, and okay, now let's build an agent that accomplishes each one of those tasks, and you can set those up on triggers and recurrences, so now it's happening autonomously, so you're able to take advantage of tasks being performed autonomously now. But that's the thing that most people are really excited about and they see, and that's what makes them jump and say, I
Mhm.
want AI. What they don't see is that in order to enable that Copilot Studio, you have to have that foundation. You have to have the ERP itself where it's going to be performing those tasks within. You have to have your data right, or else the AI is not going to be able to be deterministic enough to do the task correctly. And you have to have all the things like security and the people that are able to use those AI agents. And so there's so much that goes into that. So what I'm seeing right now with Copilot is that it is the cheese. It is essentially when a dog sees cheese, it gets really excited and it's really pumped to get the cheese. But really, what it needs is actually the hidden medicine that is inside of the
Right.
cheese that you get dog, which is the ERP, which is the process, which is the people organization, all those things. So AI is very exciting, but as people start to see the cheese, they, really they get what they actually need, which is the medicine, which is ERP process and the people organization.
Yeah, no, that's good. There's a couple questions that came in that I think would be good to address. Is this one right here from Mick? How should SMBs build a culture that supports ongoing tech growth?
Yeah, find your champions. You have to find your people that are in your organization. If you're one of them, yourself, that you are going to be incentivizing and getting them excited about using these technologies, enabling those champions to like use the technologies that they want to, that they are trying to test out and to see. So enabling them with all that, and then like rewarding them, and then also just like celebrating them to the organization. Like, hey, look what so and so did with a Copilot Studio agent, and this starts to get everybody on board, with what's going on within the agent ecosystem. And so, identifying those champions, I always think is an easy win because you have them in your organization right now. Like if you're, maybe you are that person yourself. And just starting to foster this culture, and proliferate the idea that, hey, these things are doing really good work for us. I think that's a great first step, is identifying that, and then really just continuing to try to incorporate as much technology as you can. So not looking at like, hey, this is all paper based, and rather than first looking and saying I can just create a document for this and print it out or something. Instead, thinking, hey, maybe I could use Copilot for this, and let me test that out. So shift the mindset to being an AI first mindset, or technology first mindset. It makes massive waves just down the line, because once you do one process one way, as soon as you hire other people on, they see that that's how the process is done, and then they just say, well, that's how it is. Instead, if you can set that up in the beginning, that's going to become part of your culture. And then more and more of that will kind of percolate. So definitely finding those champions, celebrating those champions, and then being able to find, hey, that AI first mindset within everything you're looking at from a new process standpoint or an existing process standpoint.
Yeah, no, that's good. And that was actually spoken at the conference I was at too, is having that AI first mindset, because it's where we're going and we have to start thinking that way. So I think
it's not intuitive. Like, even myself, I find myself, I'll be keying in something, whether it's like, some new licenses for customers or something like that. And I'm just doing a lot of manual entry. And then I'm like, I can actually use an AI for this. Like, why didn't I think of that first? So I'm definitely more and more going towards that AI first mindset, and finding areas also that, hey, maybe if I try to create an agent for this, as opposed to just using even like Copilot just as a query, but hey, maybe I'm using this prompt over and over again, I can create an agent around this. That's what I'm doing within our organization internally. Is every other week we're meeting and like talking about agents and going through and doing training on agents, and just finding any opportunity that we can to do that first, because then it saves you time down the line. Like it's even just making sure you're focusing on that from the upfront.
Yeah. And then one more question here from Mick also. What risks does a business face by waiting too long to make the switch off something like QuickBooks?
Yeah, it only gets harder and harder with time. It's definitely, you want to right time your upgrade path. If you wait and everything is just kind of disparate and your data is everywhere, that implementation is going to be much more difficult, and you're not going to be able to take advantage of those phase 2 capabilities as soon as you would like to. So definitely you want to be timing it in the right way, which is when you start to think that you're going to need more capabilities in the near future, and you're starting to see some of those issues proliferate within your organization. That's kind of that right time that, hey, let's start to make this transition now, or make this upgrade now, as opposed to waiting until it's too late, where, hey, like we can't even hire new people because of our system, or we can't add in new channels because of our system. Like, you want to be thinking a little bit forward on this, and seeing those opportunities for like when you're going to need it in the near term.
Yeah. No, and I've seen that too with some companies because the software is so old. People are like, no, I won't work for you because I don't want to learn
Yeah, and
something
it's
that's
the
so old.
customer side too. Like it's
Yeah.
right now, one of the customers I'm visiting, they have had business turn away because they'll have customers come tour their factories and they're like, "Where you guys are like everything is paper based, and they're very much technology forward company, and so they're not going to work with someone who can't kind of keep up to their pace." And so it's both the employee side, that employee experience is absolutely critical. If you have a especially like an old school
Especially green screen, yeah.
AS400, that's so much of what we see now with like legacy systems of like they're unable to hire because they just can't bring new talent in that's going to actually work with that every single day. So that's a really hard thing to quantify, I will say, is just the employee experience. Normally you look at the ROI of ERPs as, hey, where am I reducing my overhead and my just overall costs and becoming more efficient? And then where am I improving security and all these things, increasing productivity? But they're not looking at it from actually quantifying the employee experience, which I think is so big. You want to, what's the cost of you like keeping all of your top talent? That's the key. If people are throwing their hands up constantly saying our systems just won't let me do what I want to do, I mean, that's going to cost you actually like hard cash in the long term. So there's definitely a lot of risk with not moving. Security is one for, I mean, not on QuickBooks. QuickBooks is definitely, it's in the cloud and it's pretty secure. So not those type of customers. But if you are running on an older legacy on-prem solution, we've had a lot of prospects that we've been in talks with of trying to help them go through that upgrade journey, and they've got hit with a ransomware and lost their business and gone out of business, or their systems are so outdated and someone retires, or God forbid somebody passes away that was kind of that key resource for them. They're not able to operate their business anymore, and it becomes this sort of like all hands on deck, we have to move, and they're not able to because they can't even get access to their data. So it's definitely there's a lot of things that especially if you're on prem that can go wrong. But
I had a client about 4 years ago. We were there gonna get ready to do a demo for new software, and their on-prem old solution got ransomware and got hacked. And they were holding, and they're like, you can't run, you can't do anything. They had to shut down all production, everything. Luckily for them, they were really good with backups and a whole bunch of different things, and they had the business back up and running by the end of the day. But still, it shows those glitches of what can happen when you don't keep up with newer technology too.
Yeah, I think of ERP as the heart of the business from a system standpoint. And I always like to give the surgeon sort of reference, like when we're going through ERP transitions, like it is kind of like a surgery. You're really replacing it, getting a transplant for a better heart, that sort of thing. But I mean, when ERP goes down and your systems go down, it's like having a heart attack. It is just something that is absolutely detrimental to the entire organization. And if you don't, I've seen instances where people were running on-prem and they had everything like actually efficient, but somebody stole the servers and actually just physically took it away. And that's something that, it's like being shot in the heart, that sort of thing. So some of those things, like you just can't even fathom what's going to happen. So there's so many risks, with not being on a modern platform. We can go
all day about that. But just to wrap things up, what advice do you have for small, medium-sized business leaders out there as they're kind of just navigating the technology, or just saying, what do we do next?
Yeah, I think the first word of advice that I'm telling everyone right now is that, like, take a deep breath. You're not behind when it comes to AI and this whole wave that's going on with AI agents. As a small business or a mid-sized business, you should be looking at these things like AI and understanding what that vision is for where you want to go, but thinking of it as levels and being level 1, level 2, and level 3. And that first level is just getting your data right and getting your process right and getting the people right, that foundational layer. And that's where you should really be focusing, is like, hey, let me define my processes in SOP so I understand actually what runs my business. Now let me define all my people and my organization strategy, and what are my different teams, and what are my different departments, and what are their requirements as it comes to process. And then looking at the data, and where are my, what are the people that own data, what processes are affecting data, where is that data stored, and just getting an understanding of that initial level one. And then the level two is actually starting to modernize business processes through something like an ERP upgrade or an ERP implementation to something that's more larger scale, more suited for your capabilities that you're looking at. And so that's that typical, we've always thought of level one to level two. That's what everyone thinks of as leveling up when you get a new ERP. But now there's the level three, which is the agent side of things, and starting to look at, okay, how now I have an ERP, I have my data right, I have my process right, my people are organized, and I have kind of all of these things well ironed out. Now, how do I make it to that level three? And that's looking at your processes through the lens of how can an agent with that AI first mindset, how can an agent actually make an impact on this process, and looking at it from a granular level, not thinking of it as how just do my job as a prompt. That's not going to work. You want to go very detailed and look at those areas that now on these defined processes, where can an agent make the most amount of impact? Right now, what we're seeing the most amount of impact is on the financial, the sales, and the purchasing side, kind of on those core areas. More use cases are getting unlocked for sure within manufacturing, retail, and warehousing, distribution. But those areas are definitely ones to start with, like AP and AR are huge areas for unlock right now. And starting to look at those as level three, and taking it as a journey. Don't do everything all at once. Do pilot projects. You want to do things in small chunks. Don't bite off more than you can chew. And you will get there. You will get to that vision that you're looking for, to taking advantage of AI agents in the future if you do it in that way. Do it kind of methodically. Don't be at level 0 and say, I got to go to level 3.
Overnight too.
You want to do, yeah, exactly. I'll write a check. Just get me to that, and it's not going to work that way. It's a journey through time.
It is. So. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I know we could probably talk for another half hour or hour on all of these topics, but yeah, as always, everybody, thank you for your comments. We'll get to those afterwards. Keep sending them in. But again, thank you, Mason. If people want to reach out to you, where's the best way to find you?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, just connect with me, Mason Whitaker, and connect with our page here on LinkedIn, Volt Technologies. You can also email me directly if you have questions. My email is mason@volt-technologies.com. Feel free to shoot me an email. I love having conversations with people that are looking to go through digital transformation or just need advice with where they're at and maybe looking for something longer term. It's my favorite thing to talk about. This is a hobby and passion of mine, not actually a job.
Which is the best thing to have.
I know. Yeah. It's
awesome.
a lot of fun.
Well, thanks again.